And we're going to talk today about overcoming the ADHD approval trap. And believe you me, I say that it definitely is an approval trap. I'm backing up so that you guys can see the necklace. The necklace contest is in effect. So I'm backing up here. Now you can see it. Sharon, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me and for that lovely introduction. This is an issue near and dear to my heart because I, like many women, struggle with perfectionism. And I I think that, perfectionism, the tendency to demand of others or yourself an extremely high or even flawless level of performance in excess of what's required by the situation. And so there's a difference between a desire to excel and feeling like you need to be perfect. And I would like to start off this session by with us with a, an insight. And
Okay.
this insight that I had recently is that the part of you that tells you you need to be perfect isn't perfect either.
I love it.
So,
Doggone it.
the part of you that's telling you need to be perfect, it's also imperfect. And we are all perfectly imperfect. But we hear that as women and we're like, yeah, 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 whatever, I don't believe that. And
Right.
some of that is because we know that 50% of adults with ADHD have anxiety. And
Mm.
perfectionism is one manifestation of anxiety. It's one way to control outcomes, and it's a fundamental aspect of really trying to manage insecurity and uncertainty and to make things feel more comfortable. And living with ADHD, of course, it means having those moments where you're aware that you're struggling or you've messed up, but you don't know how or what. And sometimes you aren't even aware of it until you get feedback that you've done something that you've overstepped and people are mad at you, or you're getting you get negative feedback at work. And so then you kind of walk around with this persistent worry. When is the next time I'm going to mess up and receive negative feedback when I wasn't thinking about it? And so this is why women in particular struggle so much with perfectionism and imposter syndrome, which is feeling like you are what you show people is not who you really are, that the truth of you usually is, just like with perfectionism, deficient.
Okay. So let's tie this together. I so identify with so much of what you just said. And that masking piece, that imposter syndrome,
Mhm.
it ties into perfectionism perfectly because we don't want to let that down because someone might see behind the curtain, if you will. And you can see the Oz is just a guy standing there, blowing smoke, literally. So we talked about the fact that we are going to talk about approval today. So connect the dots for me between perfectionism and approval, especially for women.
So for perfectionists and for people who are not so much imposters, but for people who are perfectionists, and
Mhm.
my free gift is about perfectionism
Oh, good.
because I feel it's so important related to approval. It's that we believe that we're not okay until someone tells us we're okay. Okay. And that actually means that we're depending on others for validation and approval. And this is where women, particularly women with ADHD, fall down into into the rabbit hole,
Yeah.
because there is never going to be enough approval from someone else that's going to help you. When I think about an approval cup, I think that we are holding our approval cup out to others to fill it up,
Ah,
and they're not going to fill it up. Oh, you did a good job, or oh, I really love, you look really nice tonight. I like your dress, or oh, you were so thoughtful when you sent me a birthday card. Those are all great, but there's like a hole in that cup,
mhm.
right? It's like the famous hole in the bucket, right?
Yeah.
And the water comes in and it slowly drips out. We have to fill up our own approval cups. We have to learn how to say to ourselves, I did a pretty good job. I made an effort. It wasn't perfect, nothing is, but it was better than I could have been, or it's better than
Yeah.
it was in the past, or something like that. So we have to learn how to say things to ourselves to fill up our own approval cup. So we're walking around with the glass half full instead of the glass half empty.
Okay, so I've jotted down several things because of my working memory issues. I'm listening to you, but I just want to remember what I was going to say. One of them was that this sounds an awful lot like people pleasing, right?
Mhm.
It's a kind of another word for it. And when you talk about that cup and having a hole in it, we want to plug that hole when we're filling it up for us. But if we go around like that to other people, hoping that they will fill that up or give us something, when just use a simple example, if I wear a new outfit and someone does, and no one says anything, then I begin to question, was that really a good outfit? Maybe blah, 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 blah. But what I really know is that I feel really good in it. So that's really good. But if you go around with that cup, you kind of are almost like an emotional beggar, don't you think?
I
And
agree.
people
I think I
recognize
sorry.
no, people recognize that neediness in us, and that I think they're even more reluctant to give it to us because they might even shy away. So go ahead. You were going to talk about begging.
Actually, I love that image of being an emotional beggar.
Mhm.
And I think that's exactly right. And we women are socialized as girls to get a sense of who we are from our relationships with other
Yeah.
people.
Yes.
That is a fundamental aspect of what Carol Gilligan and Lynn Mickle-Brown and all of the other researchers found, a long time ago. And so if we're socialized to basically define a sense of ourselves through our relationships with others, then we are automatically begging emotionally for validation. We are automatically holding out the approval cup. And this is more true for women than it is for men because of this, and also because of the way that society emphasizes a perfect image, a perfect mother, you
Yeah.
know, a perfect teen student. And social media exacerbates this
Oh,
in every possible negative way. And so I think that this a desire for approval is something that we come by naturally. And so I don't want people to leave this session and feel like, ugh, another thing that's wrong with me as I seek approval. That's actually not what we want you to leave with. What we want you to leave with is learning how to love and accept yourself as you are, warts and all. This is what radical self-acceptance is about. And
ah,
certainly Tara Brach has talked so much about
yeah.
that. But
Yeah.
we want to be able to say, you know what, that meeting went pretty well. It wasn't my best, but it wasn't terrible. I did a training 2 weeks ago, Linda, at a school,
Mhm.
and I had a situation that I have never experienced before.
Oh.
And we kind of diverted from the topic
Mhm.
into this issue. And then we took a break, and I was really shaken. Of course, the person who asked the question that threw me off came up to me and wanted to talk about their personal kind of situation and why they asked that question. But I found that it was very hard for me when the day was over, even though many people came up and said, great job. I really learned a lot about anxiety and kids and how to help them in the classroom. I walked away feeling like, well, that was good. It wasn't my best.
Mm.
And where my recovering perfectionism comes in is I was able to say, that's okay. That's okay. Probably no one noticed except for you. But when you're a perfectionist, you have these standards, like when you really, knock it out of the park. I'm sure you felt that way when you're presenting at times. And then there are times where you're like, it's good. It wasn't my best. And how do I hold on to that without basically dismissing or destroying the validity and the good and the benefit that I offered people?